Welcome back to Montana this morning on this Thursday morning. The time now is 6:45 and it's 76 degrees outside. And if you thought yesterday's little, I'm going to call it a cool down, was nice, there's a bigger cool down on the way. That'll tell us all about it a few minutes from now with the forecast. Let's go ahead and get to news. We begin with national news this morning. President Trump says the U.S. plans to demand the United Nations reimpose all sanctions against Iran. The president said Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will travel to New York today to call for the UN to invoke the so-called snapback provisions that are part of the Iran nuclear deal. The Trump administration pulled the U.S. out of the 2015 agreement 2 years ago and now says Iran is violating its terms. Senator Kamala Harris spoke of the importance of family and compassion as she became the first woman of color to accept the vice presidential nomination of a major party. The third day of the virtual Democratic National Convention focused on the coronavirus pandemic, climate change, racism, and presidential candidate Joe Biden's promise of change. Former President Barack Obama also spoke and urged Americans to vote for the Biden-Harris ticket. Protests continued in Portland last night for the 84th consecutive day. Police have now declared the situation a riot. On Wednesday, a crowd of protesters marched to a county building in the city. They threw rocks through the windows and started a small fire inside the building. Officials say the protesters have caused millions of dollars in damages to city property. The demonstrations have been ongoing since the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. The county sheriff said it is simply violence and serves no legitimate purpose. Continuing our coverage, parents' frustrations with the decision to keep fans out of high school sporting events in Yellowstone County is getting organized. A new petition started by a Laurel woman hoping to reverse the guidance now has over 13,000 signatures. Katrina Welch said she believes a limited number of guests for each participant would be a fair option.
We want to take caution and be aware of, the situation and wear masks and social distance, but, we don't want to hurt our kids in the process, and they're already dealing with enough going into this school year with everything completely different that, I feel like it's just another blow to our kids, really. I'm shocked. I didn't expect it to go much farther than my friends, and, I had hopes it would, but I'd never expected it to take off this quickly.
Billings Public Schools Superintendent Greg Upham says COVID-19 case numbers swayed his opinion about fans at school events. Upham said when talks began, he wanted limited tickets for participants similar to the high school graduations. However, when the county health officer showed him the rise in daily case numbers since May, the superintendent's mind was changed. Options are even limited for parents hoping to watch their children play on the road. In Flathead County, no visiting fans will be allowed to attend school sporting events. Most of the other Montana counties where Billings schools play have yet to make a decision. Custer County health officials released their plan. Immediate family members can watch events in Miles City, and that includes parents, step-parents, and siblings. However, grandparents will not be allowed to attend because of the added risks to seniors. Visiting fans won't be allowed in. Turning to campaign news, today Montana's general election ballots will be officially certified without any Green Party candidates. The Montana Supreme Court ruled they can't be an option for voters this November because the petition that qualified them wasn't valid. A federal judge in Missoula also denied a separate request from Green Party candidates and voters to intervene. The Green Party candidates were in races for the U.S. Senate, U.S. House, Governor, Attorney General, and a state Senate seat in Missoula. And some great news to report this morning. 7-year-old Jordana Hubble is finally coming home later today. It's 9 months after she was hit by a vehicle while exiting a school bus in western Montana. Jordana received the okay from doctors and will be traveling from Houston, Texas to her family home in Olney today. Jordana has been in Houston since January with her mother Veronica, rehabilitating in a coma emergence program. Jordana's father, Cody Hubble, says she will now continue her treatment in Whitefish. This will be the first time Cody has seen Jordana in person since she left for Houston.
She definitely had no clue what was going on. She didn't understand why I wasn't taking her home when I'd come see her in the hospital, but that's all she knew. And so now she knows she's coming home now.
Patricia Berliner, the driver whose vehicle struck Hubble, has a trial set for November 3rd. In court news, the Hamilton man who hit and killed a 9-year-old boy with his vehicle is going to prison for 55 years. 60-year-old Joseph McNamara was found guilty of negligent homicide, criminal endangerment, tampering with evidence, and possession of meth in the death of Robert Leonardi. McNamara's sentencing was supposed to be next week, but was moved up so the victim's parents could be in attendance. They're both teachers at Corvallis High School. The county attorney read an emotional statement to the courtroom yesterday about how difficult losing a son has been for the parents. On to Crime Watch. An almost decade-old Montana murder case may finally be solved. Back in 2011, the dismembered remains of John Kreitz were found near McDonald Pass in the Helena area. On Wednesday, an arrest was finally made. Leon Ford was taken into custody for the murder in Washington State. He was charged with deliberate homicide and tampering with evidence. While the investigation took years to reach this point, the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff said they never considered it a cold case.
We never gave up. We continued to work leads. We continued to work where we had evidence, and there's been a lot of people, a lot of cooperation to make this happen today.
Ford is set to be arraigned in Washington this afternoon. Dutton said they hope to bring him back to face charges in Lewis and Clark County in the coming days. Now closer to home, less than 8 months after taking the job, Bighorn County Undersheriff Eric Winburn is resigning. Winburn said he enjoyed the opportunity to work for the citizens of Bighorn County, and there's still no word on why he's stepping down. Winburn took the helm shortly after 16-year-old Selena Not Afraid went missing on January 1st. Her body was found 21 days later, just over a mile from where she was last seen. The state medical examiner's office officially ruled her death accidental, and hypothermia was deemed the cause. Researchers are getting a clearer picture of the types of seeds that were mysteriously arriving in the mail from China. USDA officials say Montanans were sent corn, sunflowers, peas, and lentils. Across the country, they've cataloged more than 140 plant species. Those were a mix of generally harmless fruit, vegetable, and weed seeds. Still, officials continue to stress people should not plant them. Also making headlines this morning, Flint, Michigan residents will finally see some relief after the water crisis there that made national headlines. Michigan will pay $600 million to people whose health was impacted from the lead-contaminated drinking water. That's according to a lawyer involved in negotiations with the state. The deal is meant to resolve all legal actions against the state after regulators didn't properly treat the water in Flint. More details are expected to be released later this week. And wrapping up our news this Thursday, what started as a service project with a $100 budget is now helping veterans in the Billings community. 14-year-old Lauren Wright started My Vet's Friend. It provides bags full of training materials to veterans going through the Dog Tag Buddies program. That program pairs local disabled vets with a service dog and puts them through rigorous training. After 10 months of work, Lauren officially handed out the bags yesterday. Senator Steve Daines was there and honored Lauren with the U.S. Senator Challenge coin.
Again, it goes back to it's just truly inspiring that she understands. She has a grasp on how important our veterans are to our country, how important our military personnel are to our country, and that she's willing to do something to help them.
I went through a lot of bad times because of my PTSD. So for somebody that young to take it upon herself to try to help us and make life easier for us is everything.
She's definitely impacting a lot of lives. And it all started as a school project, too. So that's even more impressive. She really took off and ran with it.
Absolutely. And then got some great help from around the community as well, with Red Ox and everybody else being able to help out. So it's a good thing.
Yes. All right. What do you have behind you there? What's that picture?
I want to show you the temperature yesterday. We're hoping for a cool down. This is what happened yesterday. We went from the 80s to the 50s around the Red Lodge area, thanks in part because all of a sudden the hail started to fall and some rain to go along with it yesterday afternoon. Thanks to everybody who was sending in pictures and sharing a little bit about what was happening there yesterday. The potential for a few thunderstorms remains across the region. As we take a look with the First Interstate iCam, things look a little hazier for us. We're starting to pick up a bit more wildfire smoke. This is from the fires in California starting to move up this way, and there is some smoke from fires in Wyoming as well. It's not really affecting the Billings area at this point. 76 right now, the official reading at the airport, thanks in part to the cloud cover holding the temperatures up during the overnight hours, and a southwest breeze at 16 miles an hour, taking a little edge off of some of that warm readings for this morning. Billings by far the warmest of the major reporting stations, 71 in Williston, North Dakota, but as cool as 49 in Kalispell, 60 for you in Livingston, 62 in Miles City. Now you can see 62 just updated for Sheridan, 64 the current reading in Miles City. Red flag warnings, meaning fire weather concerns here from southwest Montana into the north central portion of the state today as a cold front will shift across the region. The big picture, we've got all this heat. We got extreme fire weather conditions through California with that smoke starting to move up this way. The cooler air from this trough of low pressure will be the game changer for us as we start getting into the next few days. Really heading towards the middle of next week. So a red flag warning into effect today. We'll pull up some of that smoke, but also this will act as a trigger to get some showers and thunderstorms going that could create areas of gusty winds. Possible strong storms anywhere across the state today could produce wind, but certainly a quick downpour or a little hail involved with some of those storms. Then warmer and drier conditions for tomorrow. Temperatures are still going to be into the 90s pretty consistently. Today could be especially hot in the eastern plains, but with the sunshine, tomorrow will feel warmer, and the real heat builds in on Saturday afternoon. That'll be our warmest day before this next front starts to move across the region. So the weekend looks a little quieter. Today could be the most active weather day overall. Temperatures into the 80s to low 90s. We right now have this red flag warning, but that'll expand as the heat of the day starts to build in. Temperatures in the 90s across the eastern plains. And watch these little ripples. There's where the red flag warning kicks in. And then you'll see the showers and thunderstorms more aligned, kind of what we saw yesterday, that will produce these quick moving storms that could produce quite a bit of wind. That's the blue arrows you see on your screen. Now there could be some precipitation with some of these storms as well. So we're going to scatter at least the chance of light showers across the area. But the wind will be the biggest concern, certainly when we're worried about the wildfire situation. Temperatures into the 80s, 90s to even triple digits possible across the eastern plains by the time we get later in the day. And those isolated storms start to develop along with it. Low 90s for a couple of days and then up close to triple digits on Saturday and maybe again on Monday before a cool down. Let's see what's on CBS this morning.
Coming up, an historic night at the Democratic National Convention. We'll look ahead to tonight's acceptance speech by Joe Biden. Plus, teachers tell us what they really think about returning to class as part of our special series, School Matters. Coming up on CBS This Morning.
We are wrapping up by celebrating National Radio Day today, and step out of the way, Ed. Look at these faces. We have I'm calling it a vintage photo from the 90s of our own Ed McIntosh and Brett McCrummon from their radio days. I love this picture. This is one of my favorite pictures. You can come back to tell everyone bye now.
Yeah, I can. Okay. Which again proves that we do have faces for radio.
Oh, stop it. Have a great day. See you back here tomorrow.